we've been lifting...
No, but you are aware what the last GDP figure was, are you?
Could you tell me, Nick? Do fill me in if you would, yeah.
OK. I thought perhaps you might have known that, seeing as you're trumpeting the fact that the Bank of England had brought...
Labour minister shut down after Nick Ferrari asks one simple question, an exchange that exposed credibility gaps on air. When Anna Turley, a serving minister, could not state the last GDP figure, according to the clip, listeners were left wondering who is minding their money and taxes. But here's the twist, it will leave you gobsmacked once you clock the transcript's timeline. Ferrari notes GDP contracted by 0.1%, while Turley claimed mortgages fell by £1,400, £114 a month, credit she sought to link to government rather than the independent sector. He pressed her with, "You're aware what the GDP figure was?" How many more interviews like this before accountability arrives? Right, watch how quickly the story changes when someone asks for one basic number. Listen closely to the evasions and the pivoting.
Through these figures that you and your colleagues are putting out this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, we're really pleased about this news. It's really positive that costs have basically fallen for the average mortgage by almost £1,400 since the election. So that's really important to put money back into people's pockets when they're thinking about, can they save for a holiday? Can they get through, pay the bills? Can they look after their kids, get food on the table? This will make a huge difference. And we know that's working out approximately £114 a month for people that's back in their pockets. When we took power in 2024, the average fixed mortgage was £1,185 per month, and it's now £1,071. So that every penny is going to make a real difference to people at a time where we know people are facing a cost of living challenge. So we're really pleased to see this news today.
But I thought this is down to the Bank of England, which is, of course, independent from the government, isn't it? Have I got that wrong?
Well, no, not at all. I mean, you look at the impact, for example, of Liz Truss's mini budget, and
God, are we going back? God!
I mean, the reality is people are still paying the mortgage.
Well, let's go back to Mrs. Thatcher, shall we? I mean, really, are we still going to go back to that, Minister?
Because people are still paying mortgages that had a knock-on effect. If you took out a fixed-rate mortgage, then you're still going to be paying the disastrous, thousands of extra pounds that Liz Truss piled on.
But how is this? If you'll agree, the Bank of England, not the government, sets the interest rate. How can you claim credit? How can the government claim credit for this?
Well, it's part of our broader attempt to manage the economy, stabilise the economy. And
stabilise the economy. You're aware what the last GDP figure was?
Well, look, we're in a situation where the priority for us is putting money back into people's pockets. So we've been lifting... No,
but you are aware what the last GDP figure was, are you?
Could you tell me, Nick? Do fill me in if you would, yeah.
OK. I thought perhaps you might have known that, seeing as you're trumpeting the fact that the Bank of England had brought our mortgages down. The last GDP figure, the economy contracted by 0.1%.
But look,
so how are you telling me that things are only going great financially? I don't get it.
Well, the reality is it's about what people can feel in their pockets, and that's the priority for us. So when I think about somebody waking up in the morning and they've got to get their kids to school, we're thinking about the investment in across everything from public services. So say, for example,
getting their children to school might involve bus and train travel. Those prices have gone up as well.
We've frozen those.
Well, not in parts of London. Train travel will increase, of course.
Across the country, it's really important that we're freezing train fares, we're freezing prescription charges, we're putting in more nursery care for people, 30 hours free nursery care. We're bringing in breakfast clubs to help that mum get her kids to school so that she can then get to work. These are the things that are having a huge impact on people's lives. More universal free school meals. These are bringing up, say, the minimum wage. This is really making an impact to people's lives, and that's our priority.
You will be aware, Minister, not everyone has a mortgage. Not everyone can afford to buy a house. A lot of people are, as you're probably aware, in rental. A lot of people, sadly, can't even get a home. So how are they being assisted by a government that's allowed growth to contract by 0.1% and business confidence to an all-time low last autumn?
One of the things we've done, particularly for renters, people who are renting, is bring our Renters' Rights Bill, which is giving people more security. So making sure people can't just be turfed out of their home at a moment's notice, that rents can't be driven up. We're putting in those protections and measures to support people while we take the broader steps to stabilise the economy, to grow the economy. We've seen...
But you're not growing the economy. I'm sorry to counter you. You're not. It's going backwards. It contracted. That's not growth. And I'm surprised you didn't know that figure. It's going backwards, Minister.
We've seen wages rise more under this government. They did it under 10 years under the Conservatives. And that's the reality that people see and feel in their pockets. It's about giving them money to spend.
Do you honestly think my listeners feel better off? currently, Minister?
And I know it's a really challenging time for people. I'm not going to lie that. I live and breathe in my community and I talk to people all the time. I know things are really tough, but the reality is, we have a huge amount of work to do. People voted not just to get more money into their pockets, but to turn around public services as well. We know the NHS was on its knees, so we had to do a stabilising budget that invests in our public services. We've got to sort out everything from special educational needs in schools to, say, helping children get to school, not be hungry. This is the scale of what we're having to deal with. Revitalising communities by investing where areas have had no investment, with no play parks, no street furniture. There is a huge amount to be done to rebuild the social and public infrastructure in this country, and that's what our priority has been as a government.
Last minute or so together, Minister, you mentioned the budget. Can you confirm now?
That exchange is brutal for a reason. It's not ideological, it's arithmetic. If the economy is shrinking, you don't get to pose as the champion of prosperity. And when the answer to every hard question is a list of programs, train fares, nursery hours, breakfast clubs, it starts sounding like a politician reading a leaflet while the presenter is asking, yes, but where's the growth? Here's what I reckon is happening. They're trying to run the country like a permanent campaign, speak in feelings, avoid the numbers, and hope the interview doesn't press. But Ferrari pressed. He basically said, you're not growing, it's going backwards. That's the center of it. And once you clock that, you can see how the script works. If you challenge them on results, you get a moral story. If you ask for measurement, you get a pivot. If you ask who's responsible, you get a history lesson. Liz Truss, Thatcher, anything to dodge the present tense. It's the same playbook you see from establishment figures everywhere: credit for good news, denials for bad news, and a lot of media cushioning in between. The reason this moment cut through is because it was live, it was direct, and it was about a figure that can't be hand-waved away. Now, later on, the conversation shifts to U-turns, pub taxes, hospitality, business rates. This is where you hear the next layer: language games. When it looks like a reversal, they'll tell you it's policy developing. Fair enough, policies can change. But if you announce a hit, then walk it back after backlash, people aren't stupid. They know what they just saw. And for small businesses, pubs, cafes, restaurants, this is not a Westminster parlour game. These places run on tight margins. They plan staffing, stock, rent, rates. A government that lurches about forces everyone else to carry the risk. That's not leadership, that's a right mess. Have a listen to how she tries to rebrand the whole idea of a U-turn into a sign of strength, and how Nick refuses to let the definition slide.
The government is to U-turn over this additional pub tax, or hospitality tax as it's called.
Well, I can absolutely confirm the Chancellor has commissioned some work to examine this and work with the sector to do that. So I'm afraid I'm not au fait with the specifics of what's going to be announced, and it's important that we get that right.
Why didn't she commission that prior to announcing the moves? Why announce this and then, I read, because of hostility, you then commission work? Isn't that putting the cart before the horse?
Well, I think, the context that pubs are facing is really, really challenging, because we know they had that independent valuation that's been a huge boost since COVID. So it's important that we get this right. And, so the reality is if we have to, shift our position and reevaluate the support package, and let's not forget, in that budget, we've put in £4.3 billion to support pubs and small businesses to protect them from some of these post-COVID changes. But if more needs to be done, as I said, the Chancellor has commissioned that work.
But why wasn't the work commissioned, I ask again, prior to the budget?
Well, because, a huge amount would have been done, of course, but the reality is, we put in place a big package because we knew how difficult and challenging the situation is for pubs in the hospitality sector. And that's why we put in £4.3 billion of support to help people with their bills, to help them, with support. We're looking at everything from kind of regulation, red tape. We're trying to do our best to support small businesses like pubs, because we know they're vital for our community and our economy. And the Chancellor wants to make sure that we get this right. So that's why she's commissioned this work, and we'll be hearing shortly.
Yes, so if the business rates, if there is a reverse for pubs, you won't be surprised to hear that hoteliers, restaurateurs, those with cafes, those in the hospitality sector, want the same treatment. Can you confirm they'll get it?
I can't confirm that at all, because I said...
Will there be more work done to review that?
Well, the reality is it's challenging for everyone, every sector, this is the climate that we're facing, and this government wants to support everyone. The biggest thing we can do, as I said...
What about these hoteliers, the restaurateurs and the cafe owners? Are they going to get similar treatment to pub owners?
we have to look at that, but say the reality for now is that we want to support every small business, whatever sector they're in. I mean, I live here in an industrial area where we have to support also the chemical industry, the steel sector. We have the automotive sector. We have a huge budget to try and get the economy back on its feet. And the priority for us is getting more money in people's pockets, because if people have money in their pockets, they can go out and spend it on a Friday night in these pubs and these restaurants. And that's the priority for us.
Lastly, a number of the newspapers, Minister, detail the amount of U-turns we've had under your relatively new government: family farm tax, increasing income tax, welfare reforms, employment rights bill, pubs as well. Do you get giddy with all these U-turns?
Well, there's policy always changes and develops over time, and nothing is ever set in aspect. And I think it's really easy just to say, well, this is a U-turn. I don't buy that. Policies shift.
Sorry, you don't see this pubs as a U-turn?
No, it's about getting the policy right. And this is always going to happen. Government and policy making is a moving feast all the time. You're going to shift, you're going to change. You've got to listen to people. And our priority is to listen to our constituents, listen to businesses, and make sure that we get things right.
So telling the sector their business rates are going to rise and then telling them they're not, that's not a U-turn in your book?
Their business rates are independently valued. So that was going to happen as a result of coming out of COVID. Plus, the relief that we put in place for COVID was going to come to an end. So and we've moved, a lot in the budget to try and support them through this process. If more needs to be done, we'll look at that, and we keep every policy under review. And it's a sign of a confident government that is willing to listen to the public, take the right decisions, and not just plough on ideologically, but to make sure it's right.
Okay, I don't know. I'm about to ask my listeners, but you lastly, then you will say a government that's committed or performed 11 U-turns is a government that's in a position of power and strength, is it, Minister?
Policies change all the time. I don't see every shift in a policy. We can spend the next 3 years calling every shift or slight amendment in a policy a U-turn. I don't think that's fair. Okay. The reality is we have to make sure that we get things right for people, and we always keep our policies under evaluation. That's the right thing to do.
Grateful for your time. Thank you, Labour Party Chair, Minister without Portfolio, Anna Turley. Thank you for your input talking about those mortgages.
That's the tell. A moving feast. A confident government. Listening. All lovely words. But then Nick nails it, telling us sector rates will rise, then telling them they won't. What is that, if not a U-turn? She tries to wriggle out through processed language and independent valuation. It's the same pattern as the Bank of England point: push blame away, pull praise close. This is where people switch off politics and start resenting it. Not because they hate policy debates, but because they can smell when they're being sold a story. If you don't know the GDP figure, stop pretending you're steering the economy. If you didn't set interest rates, don't pretend you did. If you reversed a decision, just admit you reversed it and explain why. And look, I'm America first to the bone, and I'll say it plainly. The public is crying out for leadership that respects reality, borders that mean something, budgets that add up, and officials who can answer basic questions without reaching for a script. You don't have to agree with every Trump line to understand the appeal of straight talk over polished waffle. In the end, this isn't about one radio clash. It's about whether the people in charge can level with the public when the numbers turn sour. Because if they can't manage a simple question on air, why on earth should anyone trust them with the bills, the taxes, and the future of the country? Britain deserves better than spin dressed up as competence.